there's a light within every human being, Mark. Every human being has a light, and most people can very easily confuse the light that they witness for the light of God. This is what happens when people practice other things and they see a light. And people do see a light, but they think that light is like the divinity. It's not. It's the spark that is in every human being, and they stop there. Like Sartre would say, Jean-Claude Sartre, right? They stop short. They stop short of themselves, and this is the ego. And as Americans, like we are, speaking of icons, we are the icons of ego. You know what I mean? And so to try to push through that, to find the true divinity of God, the true light of God, the true light of Christ, it's impossible for us, seemingly. With men, these things are possible. With God, all things are possible, because I'll tell you the secret. It's suffering. Mm-hmm. It's suffering. That's the secret.
And that's something that maybe you can kind of tell a little bit more of your path through the lens of this question that I'm going to ask you here, because it's something that I have, knowing a few people in the last few years who have, or are at least in the process of becoming Orthodox Christians. One thing that I have heard a lot of and seen a lot of actually is when you get closer to God and you start going down that path, you can often experience more suffering in your life, more difficulties, more challenges coming at you. So maybe to someone outside who
why would you want to do that?
Exactly. That's kind of where I'm going with that. Why would you want to do that? So maybe you can give your perspective on, maybe interweaving a little bit of your own story there on why would you want to do that? Yes. Why would you want to invite more suffering?
My stories, whatever. I think we can even talk in just general terms, right? Like, why would you want to do that? Well, here's the first thing. If you aren't encountering that suffering, I would submit to you, your spiritual pursuits are bogus. That's the first thing. And that's the main thing. The second thing is, you ever looked at a gymnast? You ever seen like a gymnast? Like an Olympic gymnast?
On TV.
Yeah. Isn't their body amazing? I mean, incredible, right? How did they get that body?
A lot of suffering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Everyone wants to, let's name whoever. Like, whatever you think you're into. Do you want to talk about Polyphia? Do you want to talk about, Tool? Like, do you want to talk about, Kanye? Like who do we want to point to in music, right? Who do you want to point to in art? Who do you want to point to in,
Kanye is a fun one, but that might take us down some other tangents.
No problem, you know what I mean? Like, we can talk about, fighters, MMA fighters, Muay Thai, like whatever the thing is.
Right.
It's
Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah. Floyd Mayweather. How did he get there? It's suffering.
Yeah. It wasn't from relaxing on the beach and
Nope.
Even though he may get to do that now.
Nope. And here's the thing, don't let people fool you. Because the people who maintain that level of performance, they still, here's the trick. They learn to love the burn. They learn to love the suffering.
Feel the burn. That's the phrase for a reason, right?
Yep. And that's basically Orthodoxy teaches someone not to flinch.
Interesting. The burn tells you you're on the right path then, in a way, because if you're feeling that burn, that means you are, in the case of the gym, you're building your muscles. So in the case of your soul, I suppose you're making that stronger as well.
Yeah. And not just your soul, your whole person, everything about you, because we're not talking about a morality, and we're not talking about an ideological, proposition. We're talking about ontology. It's the whole person. Ontologically, that's what you become. And so in the same way, the person who's working out, what are they burning? They're burning fat, and they're burning the lactic acid is going into the muscles and burning muscles and refining and strengthening it, right? Remember we talked about in the beginning of our conversation about, God wants to take the real Mark and purify you of all the issues of your stepdad and all that stuff. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So the burn applies there as well, right? What's being burned off as you approach the holy living God is all the fat, all the waste,
In many ways, it is kind of that choose your suffering type meme. You know, it's like, yeah, you can not suffer and not work out and not eat healthy and just sit on the couch, and then you're relaxing and you're not suffering, I guess, in that short term, but your body is suffering and you're gaining weight and you're becoming more depressed and you are suffering. So you're going to pick your suffering at the
That's
end of
right.
the day, is I guess is the point.
That's right. That's it. And that's the secret. That's the key. And that's something that is, I guess, quote unquote, universal, we could say. And someone could say, like, well, yeah, I find that in all kinds of disciplines and perspectives. And you do.
Yeah.
You do. Um, but there's an added aspect to that, which is person. And it's just important that we recognize, because I think when we're talking about orthodoxy and the kind of advent of orthodoxy in this kind of contemporary milieu, that and this is one of my big things I try to harp on, is that I am not talking about a kind of, like, again, an ideology or morality, although those things play there, right? But those are the kind of clothing that it wears. Like, what we're talking about is love. You know, if you can if you can conquer a million cities but have not love, you're nothing. You know what I mean? It's about love, and when you recognize and realize that God is love, and not just an impersonal God. I'm not talking about an impersonal God. I'm talking about a personal God. That's really what the thing is that you're seeing, and it can become easy to look at other accoutrement, like, ooh, orthodoxy is exotic, orthodoxy is this historical thing. All that stuff is there, but the consistency that you were talking about earlier, the reason why you're seeing the ascending of, like, orthodox people in the chaos of the culture right now is because we stand on the rock.
Mm, yes, that's what I have noticed, and that's why I think maybe it's probably, obviously it's not coincidental, but that's why I found myself I found myself resonating with a lot of people in the last couple of years that are different than the people I was resonating before. And again, I was going to say coincidentally because I'm used to saying things like that. Probably not at all coincidentally. And a large number, a surprisingly large number, based on the percentage of Orthodox people I knew before, which was zero, are either Orthodox Christians. I find out later. Like, it's like I find that out later that they're on this other path, or I find out that they're in the process of becoming Orthodox Christians, and it's not the original reason I was resonating with them, at least on the surface.